Before then, though, I do want to talk a little bit about Fanatics Fest from this past weekend. I did have the opportunity to attend on Sunday, and I'm still kind of recovering, not only from that, but I was there on Sunday. I've been planning for it for months. The WWE announced it, and Fanatics announced it like many, many months ago. And I kind of had it in my mind I was going to be going. Didn't get the credential confirmation until like a week or two ahead of time, which I'll go back to in a second. But the following day, actually, because I was planning on always probably going on Sunday, because of how it worked out, I was going to a Mets game the following day with my family. My brothers and I got my dad Mets tickets to a game at Met City Field in Queens on that Monday. And I'm from Connecticut, obviously, so I went on the train, and it's better than driving, because driving in New York City, I'd rather fucking die than do that. And I'm sure people who live in the city are probably thinking, oh, it's not that bad, I do it all the time. Maybe not, I don't know. I've never done it. Don't want to do it. I have driven in New York before, the state of New York, not actually New York City. You will never catch me dead doing that. So I took the train back and forth both days, which I have done a lot before. Like almost exactly 8 years ago, actually, I would have done that for SummerSlam when they were at the Barclays Center a couple years in a row. I would go back and forth. I think in 2015, I went back and forth on Saturday and Sunday. And then in 2016, 8 years ago, I think to the day, actually, I went back and forth on Sunday night after SummerSlam, I stayed in like New York City with a friend of a friend. It was a really weird situation, but I did go back and forth on the train quite a bit over the course of that weekend. That was 8 or 9 years ago. I am 8 or 9 years older now. I just do not like to travel. There's nothing, not nothing, but very few things I loathe more now than travel, as far as like extensive travel. Like every time I come back from one of these trips, I just cannot stand the travel. Whether it be SummerSlam, Mania, anything else, like driving to an event is fine. I'll do that. But like flying out to an event, I'm very grateful to be there and cover it and do all that other sort of shit, obviously. But just the actual travel itself is tough. Whether it be delays or just getting to the airport, being at the airport, flying out, getting up at fucking 2, 3 a.m., whatever it might be. It's tough. I do not envy the performer. I do not envy the WWE superstars in that respect. But anyway, back to the original point. I was back and forth on Sunday and Monday, so it was a very long weekend. I am still kind of recovering from the travel and everything else I've had to do and catching up since then. But Fanatics Fest itself, again, going back to what I was talking about originally, not to stray too far off the original path here, it was a fun time. Now, when they announced it back in, I think it was after Mania, because WWE had done something similar, not with other sports organizations, obviously, but they had done WWE World. And anyone that went to WWE World, and I assume it was a lot of the same people, because that was in Philadelphia, obviously, also in the Northeast. So if you went to Mania this year, went to WWE World, you probably went to WWE Fanatics Fest as well. And I say WWE Fanatics Fest, but it wasn't really WWE Fanatics Fest. It was a combination of the MLB, NFL, NHL, soccer, like all these different organizations, UFC as well. It wasn't just like a TKO WWE thing where it was UFC superstars. I say superstars. They're not superstars. The UFC fighters and athletes and whatnot, and the WWE stars. They had a lot of people there, and they announced a lot of big names as early as like fucking May. Because I remember telling someone at the time, like, hey, I would like love to attend, and this looks cool and whatever. And they hadn't even begun to announce really who else would be there from the WWE side beyond like Cody Rhodes, Rhea Ripley, and Hulk Hogan. Yes, Hulk Hogan was there. And funnily enough, you probably saw the news reports about, oh, every WWE superstar was sold out, which is true. I think from my own experience of looking online at the autographs and the meet and greet opportunities, the photos and shit they had available to do with the superstars on Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It was really Saturday, Sunday. No one was there, I don't think, from WWE on Friday. I could be wrong about that, but, WWE had SmackDown on Friday. It just kind of makes sense. They occupied Saturday and Sunday. But when I looked at everyone that was available, and they had a slew of superstars available, everyone from the aforementioned Cody Rhodes and Rhea Ripley to Jade Cargill, and Bianca might have been there. I don't think she was. I know Jade was. The Miz was there. They had CM Punk and a number of other people, Drew McIntyre. Of everyone they had advertised, I think Hulk Hogan may honestly have been the only one that was not sold out, which is pretty fucking funny, just considering it's Hulk Hogan, like one of the most world-renowned wrestlers of all time, but he's also just a racist piece of shit, especially coming off of that video, which actually surfaced after the Fanatics Fest, but that video that he did on Kamala Harris the other day, just pretty fucking racist. But anyway, I thought that was funny that he was like, I think the only one that wasn't sold out. Because, and I mentioned that, I had known I was going to Fanatics Fest a while ago. So I was routinely checking to see how much each superstar was for their photos and their autographs and stuff like that. Because specifically I wanted to go to, and this is kind of amazing, that I've never actually met Bayley before. I did over SummerSlam weekend this past August, a couple of weeks ago. And I, through the many interviews that I've done, I've interviewed her once over the phone, a few years ago, but I've never actually met her in person. She never really does the media junkets. She did at SummerSlam, so I had a chance to meet with her there and chat with her for a couple of minutes. So that was cool. So I didn't have to meet her at Fanatics Fest. LA Knight was another one. He was also there at Fanatics Fest. I was considering meeting him as well because I've interviewed him a lot over the phone and over Zoom and shit. Have never met him in person. Also ran into him at the airport, actually. I didn't meet Bayley at the airport. I met her at the media junket over SummerSlam weekend, but I did run into LA Knight at the airport that same weekend. So I was like, okay, don't have to meet him either. Because I'm like, I don't know when the next opportunity I'll have to meet these people is. So instead, I'll only go, I'll go for the coverage and shit, but I'm saying as far as like what autographs I'll get and whatever, I'll look to get a Miz autograph and a Drew McIntyre autograph. I've met Punk before. I've met pretty much everyone else before. Jey Uso was also there. I haven't met him before, but I've interviewed him, whatever. But specifically, I want to get an autograph from them to have them sign the Intercontinental Championship replica championship belt that I have. That I've talked about here on the channel and, on the podcast before and shit. I've had this belt for the last 7 years, trying to get it signed by every former WWE Intercontinental Champion that's still around. And I have yet to have it signed by Drew McIntyre and The Miz. And I've met both guys before, but haven't had them sign the championship. So I thought this would be an appropriate opportunity to do so. When I saw them advertised for the same day, mind you, a couple of weeks ago, or like even a month or so ago, I'm thinking, that's perfect. I'll go on Sunday to meet them. Of the days that I would go to, whether it be Saturday or Sunday or even Friday, I'll go on Sunday. That would make the most sense. I had seen how much they were. They announced that a couple of weeks ago. From what I understand, though, they did not put the tickets on sale to meet them a month ago. I could be completely wrong. But when I looked about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, when I got the confirmation as far as it would be there, they were already sold out. Everyone available was actually sold out. So it wasn't as if, like, okay, Miz and Drew aren't available, I'll meet this person instead. No one was available for the WWE wrestlers. Now, like I mentioned earlier, they had the conjunction with all the other sports organizations and shit. They had a lot of meet and greets available for, I think Carmelo Anthony was there, Derek Jeter, Tom Brady might have been doing stuff as well. All of these people were like very, very expensive. Allen Iverson, some names I know, a lot of which I don't, but a lot of like current and retired Hall of Fame hockey players and football players, basketball players, which was cool, baseball players from various eras of the sports. A lot of them had availability still. The WWE performers did not. So that tells me, and my big takeaway from Fanatics Fest, was that they underestimated how many people were actually either going to attend or buy autographs for these people. That being the WWE people. Because I have never seen in my many times of going to really anything, whether it be WWE World, and they do sell out, like even a WWE World in Philly, I didn't buy a VIP meet and greet for any of these people. But, a lot of them sold out, but I think they didn't sell out as quickly as they did for Fanatics Fest. And again, that tells me they did not have enough available. Now, I know even as it was, now again, I didn't meet any of these people at Fanatics Fest over the weekend, so I've just heard from other people like the Cody Rhodes situation where he had to leave, and it wasn't a Cody Rhodes issue, he had a house show to go to, because this poor fucking guy is the ultimate company man here, where he had SmackDown on Friday, a house show on Saturday, flew from the house show on Saturday night to Fanatics Fest for Sunday morning, and then flew out of Fanatics Fest on Sunday afternoon, morning, whatever, to go to a house show on Sunday somewhere else. It wasn't in the Northeast, I forgot where it was. So just the ultimate hustler, that being Cody Rhodes, in a good way that is. And I guess while he was there, the system went down, like the system they used to process the meet and greets and all this other shit, it went down. So Cody Rhodes had to go. A lot of people didn't get to meet him. I think he may have met up to like the first, second, maybe third group, because they had him in groups, I guess. Again, I didn't buy one, so I don't know. And then he had to leave. I had heard that it happened with other people as well. Not that they had to leave, but like, I guess it was just a mess. I've heard from a couple other people. To me, it looked like it went well, but I don't know from that specific standpoint. So they do have to fix that for the future. The Cody Rhodes thing, it's a big deal because obviously you pay to meet Cody Rhodes. And then you get fucked because not just because he has to leave, but because the system goes down and whatever. I mean, that shit happens. But if it happened with a couple other superstars, that's kind of a problem. So I can't really speak to that specifically because I did not have that happen to me. If it did happen to me, I would have been disappointed. But, electronic shit happens. And from what I understand, for the people that could not meet Cody, they either allowed them to meet someone else of equal value or lesser value or whatever, or you just pay the difference. Or they just gave you a refund, which again, that's not what you went there for, because a lot of people traveled a very long way to meet some of these people, and just to get a refund doesn't make up for the cost of the flight and your travel and all this other shit. So I totally get that. I completely understand the frustration there. That is on Fanatics Fest. That is not on Cody Rhodes or anyone that they were not able to meet that day. So they do need to work on that. I don't know if the other athletes experienced that same issue. I would assume not. But it looked like the WWE people had a longer line than anyone else there. And the lines were not 10 people short, but like the windows of which they had the superstars doing the signings and the pictures, it was not long enough. Typically they're a little bit longer, and I'm not saying they should be there for 4 or 5 fucking hours, but typically the windows at the other WWE events are a little bit longer, but I guess because they had them shorter, they wanted them to do the panels and stuff and other shit that was going on at the Fanatics Fest, because they also had panels and talk shows with the Ringer show, like the Masked Men Wrestling show, whatever it's called. They had Sam Roberts up there, maybe Peter Rosenberg, I could be wrong about that, but they had a few other people like doing interviews with some of these stars, whether it be Rhea, Rey Mysterio, Drew McIntyre, CM Punk, and a lot of content came from those interviews that people were talking about on Twitter and social media that the wrestling news websites ran with over the weekend and whatnot. So it was a big success for WWE. Like, as far as the money they made from it, and they also had the college championship belts they just announced and came out with, actually. They were on sale at Fanatics Fest, or at least they were on display. I didn't attempt to buy one, so I'm not sure, but it looked like you could buy them. They had a couple of people there, and they weren't just for display. You could actually buy them in person, along with the other, like the Red Sox championship belt and the Celtics title belt and shit like that. Like, you could also buy those there, and they've had those on sale for quite a while now. But yeah, no, I thought that was cool, and everything else seemed to be really, really well run. I think, obviously, the main thing of what people went for, that being the autographs and the pictures, there may have been issues with that. I didn't really see that firsthand, like I said, but I've heard from enough people who had said that it was a mess in terms of how it was run. This was the first one of its kind. WWE's done a lot of stuff before, but this was in Fanatics' hand, not WWE's hands. I mean, WWE obviously had a hand in it, but the overall event was run by Fanatics and not WWE. So, WWE, from what I've experienced in WWE World and other meet and greets and shit, tend to run their stuff a lot more smoothly. That was not the case on Saturday from what people had said, or at least on Sunday. Saturday might have been a different issue, so I'm not sure. But I think the overall concept of Fanatics Fest and WWE's involvement was really cool. And I think if they do it again, and they definitely should, they need to do a better job of not underestimating the WWE involvement. They try to keep it equal as far as what looked like the lines for this guy, like this retired hockey player, and the line for Rhea Ripley and Bayley and people like that. But the truth of the matter is, a lot of people that were there for the wrestlers. There was a lot of people there that were not there for the wrestlers, and they were there for the sports stuff. But WWE fans are a lot like, it's like a Comic-Con. Like, they will, like, to me, more, not even like there's not diehard sports fans, but at least in my opinion, I am not a diehard sports fan, but I feel like a diehard WWE fan is more likely to come out to what Fanatics did with Fanatics Fest than a diehard baseball fan or a football fan. Like, they may want to go meet Derek Jeter. I don't know if they're going to want to pay fucking $500 to meet these people, but maybe they will. I don't know, to sign their jersey or their baseball card or whatever. I just feel like WWE fans are much more like, I will be there. If my favorite's going to be there, I will fucking be there in line day one. And that's why I feel like a majority of the turnout they had for this thing was WWE people, and why all of those people sold out. So they don't need to just have a WWE World like they did in Philadelphia and only have WWE people. They can have other sports stars. I thought it was cool they did have these other sports stars there, and it was a big success on social media. I saw a lot of people talking about it, and there were other people, like there were a lot of people using the other activation centers is what they called it, as far as like trying out stuff that the NFL section had available and the MLB section had available. Like the giant exhibits they had were actually pretty fucking cool. That's, I think, where they really went right, and they did a great job with that sort of shit. I didn't try most of them. Like the baseball one, they would throw you wiffle balls, and you could hit the wiffle ball out in like a small outfield that kids can go catch. I mean, it was more of a little kids thing. I saw adults doing it, and some guys were missing every single fucking pitch, whereas some kids were knocking it out of the park. That was pretty funny, but that was cool. They had like a 100-meter dash or whatever it was in the NFL Center, where you could pretend, race your friends and run into a crash pad. That was cool. They had that. You could shoot hoops in the NBA section that they had available. And the UFC section was kind of underwhelming. They had an octagon available. That was cool. Like you could go inside the octagon. They had a line for it. You could take a picture inside of it and then like pose for pictures. Like I saw people, I don't know if this was like an every person thing or if they had you do this, but when I walked by a couple times and they had like the giant UFC championship that you could take a picture with, like the giant WWE title they have outside of WWE headquarters. They had something similar to that outside of some of these exhibits, and that was cool. But for the UFC one, you could go inside the octagon, and the pictures I saw some people taking of like them doing holds and shit to their friend or their partner, like it was interesting. I just don't think it makes for a great picture. And they had someone else there that was like acting to be a referee. I don't know if there was someone that was already part of the exhibit or if that was someone in that friend group. I don't know. But it seemed a little strange because I'm thinking, yeah, it's cool to like reenact holds and stuff, but it's like, does that really make for the greatest picture? Like, I don't know. But I thought the fact they had an octagon there was cool. They didn't really have a whole lot of like memorabilia there for these other activation centers beyond WWE. WWE's, they had a lot of shit there. They had like the CM Punk, I don't know if it was the exact shirt, probably not. But they had like a makeup of CM Punk's gear and the shirt that he was wearing the night that he cut the pipe bomb promo, and Triple H's WrestleMania 31 attire, not only the gear, but like the fucking headpiece that he wore to the ring that night. I think it was WrestleMania 31, like the Terminator shit that he was doing, among other, attires and stuff like that, like a Rock jacket, one of the jackets that The Rock wore one time. Like, it's a lot of the same stuff they had at WWE World, but I thought it was set up very well. The entrance that they had available for people to make was the real big hit of the weekend, I thought. Even people that were not wrestling fans, that I sat behind at like in the media room, that were there to cover like the MMA shit, they were talking about how cool it was that WWE had this make an entrance thing, which WWE's had at their Access stuff for many, many years now. I've never had a chance to do it. I would look like a complete fucking loser trying to do it. I still want to try it at some point. I would look like a dork, I promise you. But maybe at some point I will try to one of these events. It's just that the line is always long, so it's not always worth it when you could be doing other things and other stuff and whatever. But that was a real big hit, and watching people make their entrances, no matter how great it was or how realistic it was or how cringy they were, seeing people make their entrance was cool, and I was there for a little while, people watching people making their entrance and shit, so that was cool too. And that was really the best part of the entire Fanatics Fest, was that was by far the best activation. The other ones didn't really have nearly the same amount of people waiting in line for it, and the same amount of people waiting around it and shit like that. But WWE had a massive presence. I thought it was a massive success from that standpoint, probably in terms of the money they made from it, in terms of the amount of people they got to go. There were a lot of people there. Wasn't the same amount of people that you would see for like a New York Comic-Con. This was at the Javits Center. I forgot to mention that earlier, but it was in New York City at the Javits Center, I believe is how you pronounce it. It's the same place where they have New York Comic-Con every year, and I've been there 3 years in a row. And that, at least on the days that I've gone, on the Fridays and the Saturdays and shit, the fucking turnout for that is just ridiculous. Just completely fucking ridiculous. This was like a quarter of that, even if that. But like to use Fanatics Fest as an opportunity to do big events, like they also had the Mike Tyson, Jake Paul press conference on Sunday when I was there. And I got a chance to attend that. That was really cool to watch live. Wasn't, the most exciting thing because it took a while to get going and getting people inside was kind of a mess, but it was cool and people were standing the whole time, so it was kind of tough to say. They should have regulated that a little bit better. But the fact they even had it at Fanatics Fest was actually pretty cool, and I would assume it's streamed online somewhere. But I thought that was really, really well done. So, again, I hope they do Fanatics Fest in the future. There are some things that kind of have to, ease out detail-wise as far as, like, the, meet and greets go, and electronically people getting to meet who they want to meet. And again, the Cody Rhodes having to leave thing was not Cody Rhodes' fault at all, to reiterate that. that was on Fanatics and their system. And again, shit happens, but when you're on a time crunch and some of these people have to leave, it does fuck over the fans. If you have to wait an extra hour or so, like I've been in that situation before, it is what it is. People have to, people arrive late, they have to leave early. It is what it is. But at the same time, though, when it comes to like stuff like that, they really should be doing a better job of that, because for someone to pay to meet their favorite superstar, and they came from a long way to do so, and then they don't, and then they aren't able to, that really sucks. But I think my top takeaway as far as the WWE stuff goes, they need to do a better job of not underestimating the WWE, the involvement and just the amount of people that will show up for the WWE stuff specifically. Have more WWE involvement. Like the talk show was cool, but like the area where they had Rhea Ripley on stage talking to Sam Roberts and shit like that, Paul Heyman was also there. The space that they had it for was so fucking small. Like I didn't even stand around to watch it because the space was just standing room only. And like the theater that they had the press conference in had seating, and it always has. I mean, that part of the Javits Center always has seating. But just do it there then, if you can. They tried to do a lot, and the WWE stuff was kind of regulated to a certain section of the building, and that had more people in it than anything else aside from the press conference, from what I saw. Like I think they were doing other shit in the theater before the, before the press conference. I don't know what the amount of people that were there for that, but they should try to do more talk shows inside the theater as opposed to doing like a pop-up stand where people are just standing around for fucking 30 minutes and you can barely see, and it's kind of hard to make out because there's just, as far as like the flow of people, it wasn't really well organized as far as that goes. But again, that's just merely nitpicking. So I hope they do it again in New York City. They could do it elsewhere too. Maybe they can, I was going to say they could do it around a WrestleMania or a SummerSlam, but at the same time, though, I think Fanatics Fest can stand on its own. Maybe they could do like a WWE UFC Fanatics Fest around WrestleMania weekend, but that's basically what they did with WWE World, and that was already massively successful with the superstore that they have and the entrances and the other shit they have available to do at WWE World this past year. For the amount of, for the price that you pay for it, I think WWE World was a better ticket. If you're a big wrestling fan, there wasn't as much stuff to do if you're solely a wrestling fan to do it like Fanatics Fest. But, the ticket I think was like on average $50 for a single day adult or whatever it was. I think they could do a better job of organizing that. But beyond that, though, I think it did go pretty well. And I hope they do it again in the future.